Hey, hello, everybody. So let's get started. Mr. Rongyang, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you see me now and hear me? Well,
yes, perfect. I can see you, Mr. Rongyang. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
I
you.
think it's your early morning, right?
For me, it's 9:26, so it's pretty good.
9:26. Okay, good. Thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. And it's my honor to introduce you first. Then it's your turn. Right, we are very pleased to invite Mr. Rongyang from United Kingdom, who is the CEO and CKO of Knowledge Associates Cambridge company, a visiting lecturer of knowledge asset management at Cambridge University. Rongyang is the founder of Knowledge Associates international group of companies who are based at Sean Jones Innovation Center, Cambridge, UK. He is acknowledged as a leading international expert and thought leader in strategic knowledge asset management. Mr. Rongyang chaired the BSI Knowledge Management Standard Committee, and he is a member of the ISO International Standards Work Groups for Knowledge Management, Innovation Management, and Asset Management. He specialized in developing knowledge strategies, policies, governance models, standards, knowledge systems, and knowledge-driven platforms. He is joint author of many books like Intellectual Capital in the Digital Economy, Knowledge Management Facilitator's Guide, and so on. And today, we are very pleased to have Mr. Rongyang to give us a lecture. Tacit knowledge is your greatest knowledge asset. Thank you so much. Please, Mr. Rongyang.
Thank you so much. Let me see if I can share my screen. Just a moment. It's coming up now.
Yeah, no worries. Take your time.
Okay, hopefully you can see that well. So, first of all, I would like to congratulate GO-TKM for organizing what I think is a very special event, and to thank GO-TKM for inviting me to speak and share some of my thoughts with you today. As just mentioned, Knowledge Associates were an international group, and as pictured here, and as mentioned, I'm based in Cambridge, UK, at St. John's Innovation Centre, and I've been there since 1995. The Innovation Centre was established by St. John's College, which is part of the University of Cambridge, in 1987. And that is part of St. John's Innovation Park, which hosts many and supports many knowledge and innovation-driven companies. It's an international hub that's primarily concerned with helping innovative startups with knowledge-driven products and services. Although it also houses some very large international organizations. For example, we're working with the British Standards Institution, and they have a small team there at St. John's working with data analytics and artificial intelligence. And like all knowledge and innovation hubs all around the world who are closely connected with their universities, there's a lot of tacit knowledge. There's a lot of great ideas and new insights, and they're being developed every minute of the day. And so we are interested in helping them to find the best ways to transform into innovative products and services, transform their tacit knowledge into innovative products and services. So today, I'll talk for no more than 30 minutes maximum. And the title of my talk, as mentioned, is Tacit Knowledge is Your Greatest Asset. But what do we really mean by that? So
Thank you. Excuse me, Mr. Wang Yang. Maybe you can check your computer. You know, we are stuck here. Make sure your PowerPoint can show.
Right. Can you see now my slide?
Wait a minute.
You should have a slide which shows the 3 key questions.
Yeah, maybe our facilitator can show the slides.
Okay, if you like, that's possible. Would you prefer that, or can you not see my slides now?
No.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Yes, I can only see the slides like a Zoom. This is the Zoom's interface, not your slides for the presentation.
I see. I've got the presentation in front of me and it says it's sharing, but maybe your facilitator could. I sent some backup slides yesterday, if that could be. I see. Shown.
Okay, good. Now I think our facilitator share the slides.
Okay.
Is that okay for you?
Yes. Well, at the moment, it's not showing full screen. Yes. If we go to slide 2, 3 key questions.
3 key questions.
All right. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Sorry for that. So there are 3 key questions that I would like to answer in this session, if I can. Why is tacit knowledge the greatest knowledge asset? And what are the 3 key drivers for tacit knowledge creation? And how can we best manage and transfer tacit knowledge? That's what I'm talking about. So let's get started by considering the why. If I could have the next slide, why tacit knowledge is the greatest asset. Next slide, please. And I know that many of you will have seen this picture of an iceberg before, as it's very often used to describe knowledge. Of course, it's an oversimplification of the complexity of knowledge, but it's very useful to more easily explain and understand the types of knowledge we refer to and how we can create it better and how we can apply it. So I'll use this iceberg model to quickly remind us of the basics and to then describe the very high value of tacit knowledge and why we think it's the greatest asset. If we consider this iceberg in the picture, it has a small visible part above the surface of the sea that we can all see. And it might appear to us as a small iceberg, but we know that deep down below the surface of the sea, for a typical iceberg, there is a much, much larger and deeper part that cannot be seen at all from the surface. And that whole iceberg represents a person's knowledge at any one point in time. And it can be considered in 2 parts. The visible part of our knowledge that we're communicating to others, say in words and maybe pictures, as I am doing right now, and the much larger, invisible, deeper part. And we call the deeper part our tacit knowledge. And this is the knowledge that we have developed through our living experience, both in our personal lives and in our professional lives. And for many, tacit knowledge actually is quite difficult to verbalize and to share. And that is because it's shaped by our personal beliefs and values, and quite often it's hidden from sight. However, the explicit knowledge is that knowledge that we can easily articulate to others and write down and more easily share. This could be shared with others in conversations, a lecture, presentations, a book, video, for example. But please do remember this important point when we talk about knowledge transfer. When a person knows, the knower, when that person wishes to communicate and transfer their knowledge to others, then the others actually only receive information, as they do not know yet. And through their own learning process, they will filter the information, analyze it, synthesize the information they're receiving to their own knowledge in their own unique way, based on their own values and beliefs, existing knowledge, biases, and experiences. So, for example, I can turn some of my tacit knowledge into my explicit knowledge in, say, a presentation, and send it to you in electronic form, let's say by email, and I can send it to you in seconds. But you do not have the knowledge yourself. You have the information that you can then turn into knowledge through the learning process, as I've said. Information can be transmitted digitally around the world in seconds, but knowledge creation takes time. So my first point is that the most important thing to do to create your tacit knowledge faster is to actually learn the best ways to learn. The learning process, accelerated ways to learn how to learn, is key. Let's take this a little further. Can I have the next slide, please? Another very simple but very helpful model of the brain based on learning theory and the high value of tacit knowledge is to consider 3 stages: conscious, pre-conscious, and subconscious. The psychologists refer to the conscious level as all those things we are aware of, including things that we know about ourselves and our surroundings. It's the part that also enables us to concentrate and focus on new things that we may be learning. For example, we may be learning to ride a bicycle or drive a car, or learning to play golf or football or a musical instrument. At first, we seem to have many things to remember to do, and it might be quite difficult and slow sometimes. Some even give up at this stage, and this is the conscious mind that is slowly making things more familiar. This is often referred to as the logical or intellectual part of learning. Gradually, through repetition and perseverance, things start to become more familiar, more memorable, and they start to become easier. Things even start to become routine. And importantly, we create from these familiar routines our habits. And we call this the preconscious. The preconscious consists of those thoughts that you aren't actively thinking, and the things that we could pay conscious attention to if we so desired, and where many of our memories are stored for easy retrieval. It's often referred to as a multitasking part. And we're told that the preconscious can actually handle up to 9 things very effectively, simultaneously. Above 9, and we risk overload. But the preconscious is faster, and the much slower and the much slower literal conscious. In psychology and learning theory, we can hand over from the conscious to the preconscious when we've reached a certain age of experience and competence. We find that we can drive our car better, we can play football much better, less consciously aware, and even more relaxed. And finally, the subconscious is that part we associate more with tacit knowledge, as it's the stage that we've handed over completely from conscious and preconscious learning to a stage where we just seem to be performing at our best. At this stage, we often talk about people, especially sports people, who are in the flow without any conscious memory needed. This is the fastest part of the subconscious mind by far, and it's often also associated with more creative activities, like its ideas, imagination, insights, and possibly intuitions. Importantly, it can be the place of very high speed habits and actions of excellence. To demonstrate my point, let me just quickly share a very simple example with you. If say I am competing with somebody in sports, let's take tennis as an example. If your opponent is winning, if you simply say to the opponent, "You're really playing well today, you are in the flow. Can you tell me, how did you do that?" And once you ask them to think how to do this, they start to think logically again, and the performance starts to go away, and very often to pre-conscious and even conscious, and their game can even start to fall apart. So isn't it amazing that we can be driving our car at speed down a motorway and at the same time be listening to the news or music being played, and at the same time have deep, thoughtful conversations with the passenger? So I hope I'm starting to convince you that tacit knowledge is by far the greatest knowledge asset we have. It's the fastest, richest, and often most reliable form of knowledge and excellence even. And the challenge for all organizations and knowledge management practitioners is to be able to develop the best methods and the best tools to be able to surface and transfer this valuable, rich, tacit knowledge within experts, collaborative teams, communities, and what we call knowledge networks. The key problem that all organizations face today is how to retain the critical knowledge when people with a lifetime of valuable tacit knowledge either retire from the organization or leave the organization as a result of illness or even a higher job opportunity and mobility. So let's go a little deeper. Next slide, please. Can you just keep clicking, please? A little more. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. To develop even better ways to create and distribute knowledge between individuals, teams, across the organization, and with our key stakeholders, like our customers, our suppliers and partners, even across society, we need to better understand, first of all, the existing several ways that knowledge can be transferred between people. We broadly talk of 4 modes of knowledge transfer. First of all, we talk about the internalizing stage, to obtain the information from others, and through the learning process, we turn that eventually into our tacit knowledge. I've already briefly mentioned this mode. This is often what we call an explicit to tacit mode of transfer, but it's often quite slow, and it's prone quite often to misunderstanding. Or if the information is communicated in short text or even a long email, for example, it often gets interpreted differently. We call this mode thin communications, but it's very useful and it's very common, and it's a common daily mode of communications and knowledge transfer. The second mode of internal knowledge creation is, we call it explicit to tacit. And we've already had a brief discussion about this as we go through the conscious to the pre-conscious to the subconscious. The third mode of knowledge transfer is more the externalizing mode of sharing our knowledge from tacit knowledge deep within to explicit perhaps, and then explicit to others, and explicit and then tacit for them, so their own unique tacit knowledge. But it becomes more interesting when we start to increase the intensity of learning between people, to enable people to learn together in even more social and even more rapidly interacting ways in, say, highly collaborative teams or naturally thriving communities of practice, or social networking and social media, for example. People share, learn, feedback, and create new knowledge best through social learning structures, methods, and tools. But the best way is when we create rich communications. The ideal, of course, would be tacit to tacit. And this is because an email or text is considered thin communication because it engages only a few of our information gathering senses, the capabilities to read and to write and to hear. But if we can also sense the body language and feel more the emotions and even creatively imagine ourselves, visions and ideas and smells and thinking and feeling and touching sensations, we transfer much richer information to one another. It's rather like considering that the thin communications as a slow and limiting one channel of data, and the rich communications as a wide, fast broadband of many more channels and multimedia information. That's why good storytellers who are able to engage many and all of our senses, and especially our emotions in the story, transfer rich knowledge between people much faster. And leaders and managers in organizations need to be taught the basics of how to communicate their key organizational messages better in engaging stories. So let me summarize these theoretical points so far, and then I'll start to share how we can today practically do this better. So if I can have the next slide, please. And if you could press all the buttons to get to the bottom, that would be better. Thank you. So very, very briefly, I've said we communicate information to one another. We do not communicate knowledge. We share our own knowledge with others through information. Learning is the process that turns information into knowledge. Explicit knowledge is that knowledge that is, that information, which is embedded within communication systems and learning systems and databases and knowledge bases and practices and standard operating procedures, for example. That's the explicit contained in knowledge. Tacit knowledge is embodied in individuals, teams, communities, and networks. And you know, we will always have far more tacit knowledge than we can ever communicate explicitly. It's changing by the second sometimes, changing by the day. Tacit knowledge is our greatest knowledge asset. And you might say that practical wisdom is gained intellectually and experientially through what I like to call the dance between tacit and explicit knowledge. So next slide, please. Let me take a further 10 minutes to introduce to you 3 key drivers for tacit knowledge and how we can start to even better manage and transfer our tacit knowledge. Okay, you can stick on that slide if you like, or go back to the other one. That's right, stick with that. We used to say that we used to talk about people and processes and technology, and still do, as the key drivers. But now, next slide, please. What we prefer to say is extraordinary people, extraordinary knowledge platforms, which I'll explain in a moment, and an extraordinary integration of people and platforms. And by extraordinary, we mean, of course, beyond the ordinary way of creating knowledge and doing things. But one day the extraordinary will become ordinary as these ways become better known. So we must never forget the need for continuous and sometimes radical information. And you can see here, extraordinary people create and apply rich tacit knowledge. And we can learn to do that better. Extraordinary knowledge platforms are used, and methods and tools to accelerate that knowledge transfer and integration of people and processes, and the platforms are the key knowledge assets. So the next slide, please. So how can we best manage and these daily actions, how can we transfer and best manage this rich tacit knowledge as individuals and teams? Let's start with extraordinary people. Next slide, please. Extraordinary people, experts, extraordinary teams, extraordinary communities tend to have an extraordinary purpose and seek to create extraordinary knowledge. This can happen when they better understand through education programs how extraordinary knowledge can be created and applied. And we've started to discuss this in the forum today. In so doing, they realize the importance of a trust-driven leadership and culture. But as importantly, it's vital that the organization supports building a knowledge and time culture, which gives more empowered people time to build knowledge. You cannot build valuable tacit knowledge unless the organization realizes that time must be given to not only search the web and quickly read the information, but time to reflect, time to analyze, time to synthesize this into new, deeper tacit knowledge. Otherwise, it will remain as thin and fleeting surface knowledge. The best possible time and management strategy is to create a coaching and mentoring style, which essentially requires giving time for learning, reflection, analysis, synthesis, and provides the necessary inspiration and motivation to do this for both the good of the individual, the good of the team, and the good of the organization. It's a win-win culture. History shows us that tacit knowledge transfer occurs very effectively through experiential learning, and that means managing and working apprenticeships. New knowledge competencies have now been identified and can be managed to develop extraordinary knowledge work. But it is our personal and collective mindset that dictates what we filter, what we accept, and what we reject. And that means we need to develop a shared understanding of valuing tacit and explicit knowledge, knowledge platforms, and their integration as the most important assets in the organization. Next slide, please. The second driver of three is the knowledge platform. The knowledge platform for knowledge associates globally is called Knowledger, as above. But there are several very, very good knowledge platforms available today for organizations to use. I propose that the next generation of the World Wide Web will be characterized strongly by knowledge platforms. We've transitioned from Web 1, as we called it, a web of information only, to Web 2, a web of information and people interacting, to what some are calling today Web 3, which is information plus people plus increasing machine intelligence. And today, our well-established search engines that match text are being challenged by far more intelligent machine learning models that learn from conversations and context. And these machine intelligence capabilities are growing exponentially, literally as I speak, with more sophisticated search capabilities, larger natural language models in all languages, and self-learning digital neural networks. But knowledge platforms differentiate themselves from the basic web infrastructure. They're considered, and we like to call them, the DNA of the knowledge-driven organization. Most importantly, they provide support for navigating the complexity in our knowledge economy. And they contain powerful knowledge navigators for more meaningful and purposeful driven work. Could you just go back to the last slide just for a few seconds? Sorry for that. Powerful knowledge navigators are an important aspect of a knowledge platform. Collaborative and co-creative virtual knowledge workspaces are more and more the need and the commonality for knowledge teams today. And team performance shows that effective collaborative teams achieve accelerated learning and new knowledge creation faster than any other way. Effective collaborative team working. And finally, good knowledge platforms have embedded within them the latest innovative knowledge creation, transfer, reuse, and retention processes. And most significantly, we can now apply leading data and analytics to the use, to the performance, and the measurement of our organization's knowledge working effectiveness. Next slide, please. And briefly, key number 3 is integration. By this, we mean integration of human intelligence and digital intelligence. Historically, and in the main today, organizations have managed people through human resource departments and HR systems, of course. And also, organizations provide technology to support information management and IT systems. In a knowledge-driven organization, extraordinary people and extraordinary knowledge platforms must be developed and gradually integrated into one more holistic management system. This system must be, of course, designed to meet at least the international standards of information and digital asset management, collaborative partnerships, learning and knowledge management, innovation, knowledge asset management. And if you add good quality management and good risk management, all these standards already exist in a knowledge and innovation cluster, and they've been published by the International Standards Organization. So final slide, please. Let me finish with my strong belief and conviction that those organizations that manage their human and technology knowledge assets wisely will lead the 21st century. So I hope I may have given you some new ideas and even possibly some new insights into why tacit knowledge is your greatest and extraordinary knowledge asset. Of course, we've always managed our knowledge and always will continue to do so. But the key, as individuals, teams, and organizations, is to apply the best ways to do this so much faster and with even higher quality. So please contact GO-TKM, and if you want to know more, please visit our website. Don't hesitate to contact us if we can give you more information. So I'll stop there and hand back over to you, and thank you for your attention.
Hey, thank you so much, Mr. Ron. I think this is a great presentation. Just to close to our today's the guest speakers, and you shared some principles between explicit knowledge and tacit knowledge, and also highlights 3 key drivers, right? The extraordinary people, extraordinary knowledge platform, and the integration of the people and the knowledge platform. This is a wonderful, so powerful message. And thank you so much for your time. This is a wonderful, yes, wonderful speech. Thank you, Mr. Ron.